Right, Brian, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, not a bother, Steve. It's good to be here.
So, you are a member of the Capital Circle, and we've worked together over the last community as well. So, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself,
Yeah,
where you're from, maybe how you got into crypto, Bitcoin, and trading? And we can keep it maybe
yeah, yeah,
not too long.
yeah. Brian Quigley, based in the northwest of Ireland, and I got into crypto, I would say around 2021. Again, sort of got into it blindly. Somebody had mentioned, an altcoin called Theta, and my wife had heard about crypto through different people, and she'd actually done some research into it. And then I came home all excited about this new altcoin, and we sort of started watching YouTube videos, set up a Binance account, bought a bit of Theta, watched it go up, watched it go down, held it, didn't know when to buy, didn't know when to sell. Ultimately ended up, watching it make money and lose money at the same time.
Was that near the Bitcoin top in 2021 you got in?
I think we got on, it was probably before the top, but it would have been, on the way up. And then we really watched it go to the top, waiting for this like sort of parabolic sort of blow off or moon sort of thing to take off. And, it did make money, but we just didn't sell at the right time. And
Right.
and then we ultimately ended up holding on to it. And then again, just watching more and more YouTube stuff and things like that. Yeah, not really any of our friends or anything like that were into it. So we were just kind of on our own, just paddling our own canoe with it.
Yeah, and it's common. It is difficult to find people that are interested in crypto in general.
Yeah,
It was a struggle I had as well. You
yeah,
kind of lean more into like what's happening online and what certain YouTubers are doing at the start, what's going on with X.
yeah.
But before, let's say you joined myself, we partnered up in Capital Circle. Like what was your trading or your investing strategy like back then, back
Um,
in 2021?
so like, I suppose like we obviously knew about the 4 year cycle, those things, and that's just stuff that you would have heard and maybe read bits and piece articles and things like that. But really we were just sort of buying sporadically and selling sporadically. We weren't trading as such.
Right.
We weren't, it was sort of, we had tried a bit of trading, hadn't been successful with it, and then we'd sort of moved to a sort of buy and hold. But again, we were buying and holding, but never really selling. Um, so that was kind of what we were doing, and no real direction. That's the truth. And then I suppose I came upon your group through Instagram, I think it was. But I think a lot of the videos you were doing at the start, some of the content you were doing, it was more sort of, basic sort of financial sort of literacy as such, and, sort of explain it simply to people. And that's kind of, I like that. I just thought that was really, it was really down to earth and just ordinary way of looking at things. And then shortly after that, I was just sort of watching your videos for a while, and then you announced that you were opening a sort of a academy. Um, and I thought, yeah, do you know what? This guy explains it, sort of simply, breaks it down, and I thought, yeah, that sounds good to me. So, got into the first group, and if I'm honest about it, at the start, I sort of, did a lot of the lessons and things like that, and then sort of tapered off.
Right.
I didn't put on the work. Wasn't on the live calls, wasn't sort of following the lessons properly. Did learn a bit about, supply and demand, things like that, order blocks, momentum, but not, it would have been in and out, that sort of way, not really sticking at it. But all through that time, I was continuing to accumulate sort of the mainstream coins, and wasn't really interested in trading, just really buying and holding. And then it was really into this next, when you opened the inner circle, is when I really started to put the effort into it, because I realized at the tail end of this bull run, I missed the top completely. Just completely missed the top again. and you know, I thought, right, I need to start putting a bit of effort into this. So
Gotcha. I suppose just as a caveat, I forgot to mention it. We're both in Dubai at the same time.
yeah, yeah,
All
yeah,
this
yeah,
came together.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I should have. I
yeah,
meant to
yeah,
say that at the start. But
yeah.
so obviously you've come across to the new, more exclusive capital circle, and so what was the main reason then that you want to take the trading more seriously, or did you kind of already answer about maybe missing the exit at the top? And what do you think it was that not made you miss the top, or that maybe took that your eye came off the ball a little bit
Yeah,
there?
yeah. I think the major thing for me was that the the buying and holding sort of approach, you know, works fine. It's grand, but you obviously you need a lot of capital to do that. You know, if you want to make, you know, substantial gains. Um, when I started looking at the trading and I started to understand it a wee bit better, and I could see where the movements were, and I could see where the opportunities were to, you know, if you could sort of learn about, start implementing it better, you could catch these 10-20% moves, you know, and there's quite a few of those as the cycle goes along. And I thought, yeah, you know, I'm sitting here holding, but there's so many opportunities missed along the way to to make additional gains. So I think I sort of took it on board that if you keep your holding portfolio, but also to have a small side piece where you're trading, and just, you know, not be too aggressive, but just slowly but surely build it up. And that's kind of where I took interest in it. But also, I think from the trading side of things, it actually helps you, you know, realize and understand. You get more used to buying and selling at the right selling, because that's the killer for most people, is like actually pulling the trigger and selling. You know,
It's difficult emotionally, as humans. It's difficult, but I think exactly as you said,
yeah,
when I got used to buying and selling more,
yeah,
you know, doing smaller trades,
yeah,
it does make it a bit more. You're used to like, okay, we'll retrace
yeah,
and get an entry, you know, for
yeah,
sure. So I can totally relate when I started off. What's really unique actually about your case is the fact that your partner, your wife, is
wife, yeah,
also interested in trading.
yeah,
So
yeah,
can you talk me through that? Like, how did she get involved? And do you think that having your partner actually on side with you makes it easier
yeah.
to kind of take on board and actually be able to be confident to take positions in the market and enter and exit at the correct times?
Yeah, yeah, like I mean, she would. I'm sure she's going to laugh when she sees this, but you know, she actually seen crypto before I did, and she had mentioned to me, and I was like, what the deal? Why, you know, not really paying any attention to it. And then when I came home and was like, oh look, I found this. She was like, I told you about crypto, and now we sort of, let's say, we're doing the lessons together. We're learning about. She doesn't really trade as such, you know. She sort of sits on behind me and watches me trade and looks at the bits and pieces. But to have that other person there to like bounce something off, you know, if I'm looking at a trade or a setup and I say, you know, look at that, there's an engulfing candle there, or there's this, there's that, or there's a pattern, or, you know, do you see that trend line? It's that extra confidence that somebody's going to say, yeah, I see that as well, or, you know, I don't. But also it's great, like you share the wins and you share the losses, you know, and you sort of, if you get a loss, which inevitably will happen, they're like, oh, it's okay, you know, it's grand, just move on to the next one. You know, you expected that, you know, if it's going to go bad, it's good to happen, but we'll get it in the next one, and just you bounce on from it. But no, it's good to have a wife involved as well. Yeah, definitely
I think
helps.
yeah, it's so unique. It's. I mean, honestly, from what I've experienced, it's unusual. It's rare. So that's super cool. I love to hear that. I suppose we've had a few one-to-ones together so far since you've joined Capital Circle. We've talked through some options, made kind of a plan for your strategy of what way you're going to break your capital up, how you're going to think about trading it. But what for you is like the most beneficial, I guess, or the most value you get from the one-to-one sessions?
Yeah, yeah, like the one-to-one sessions are, you know, it's great. You know, I can bring my trades, wins or losses, we can look at them. You can say to me, look, Brian, that went well because of this, this, and this. You know, maybe even to say, you know, you got lucky in that. You jumped in too early, but you got lucky. And that's, you need to understand that as well. You know, you can't be sitting back and thinking that, yeah, you traded everything really well, even if you did one, because it could have just been luck this time. But also on the losing trades, you know, to break those down and say, why did they go wrong? You know, again, they can go against you even when things look like they're lining up, but that's trading. But yeah, just having that person to with a bit of experience behind them to sort of give you the pointer, you know.
And I feel like it's important. Like whenever I learned any skill, I mean, I've done a few things in my career, like whether it's music, whether it's trading, whether it's starting a new job. I think if you have someone there, you can kind of go to and ask. I don't know. I think you need that to kind of learn faster and really make sure you understand. Because watching lessons is one thing, but actually being able to go, like, everybody interprets things different, and so it's nice to be able to come on and like ask a question just to clarify certain things. So that worked for me as well in everything I've done. I suppose is if I could ask you, like, is there any one or two things so far? I mean, I know we're still early on in our journey, right? But is there any one or two things that have helped significantly, or what have helped the most so far, do you reckon?
Yeah, like I think one of the big things being part of the group is, you know, that all the bigger picture stuff that's going on in the world. Like, everybody's got jobs, full-time jobs, they're busy, kids, everything else. Like, you don't really have the time to be, you know, checking when the Fed's going to make their next announcement, what's going on in world news, you know, economics, how the sort of S&P 500's doing, the stock market, so on and so forth. And just having that sort of, even though those snippets every week of what's happening, like that's a real big insight that, you know, it's a lot of research goes into that, like, and really, like, I wouldn't have the time or be equipped to do that.
Yeah.
So I find that really helpful because, like, crypto and stock markets, you know, a lot of it's on moves on news and sentiment, you know, what's going on in the world and so on and so forth. So having that broke down is a great help, you know. Yeah.
And even even when I first started investing and trading, like, even understanding the correlation between what actually moved the markets, because I didn't realize when I started years ago, you know, that really Bitcoin and crypto is following the stock market. So if you know, you've got an idea of what the stock market's going to do, and we can kind of look at the data, look at what's happening macro-wise, then you've got an idea of what's going to happen in Bitcoin. And that fundamentally, a lot of people actually miss that. But when you dial in on that, like, you can, the stock market is incredibly repetitive. You know, even if you go back to the last 16 years, we discussed it in the academy, but the repetition of what the market does is scary sometimes. It's nearly like a clone copy, you know. So that's great that that value is kind of coming up. A lot of people struggle with execution. So you kind of mentioned that at the start. You know, a lot of us have been in profit, and like a lot of members have come in and they have been in good profit, like 60%, 40%, 300%, 400% profit. But the execution to actually take the exit is what a lot of people miss out on, right? And you mentioned that. So what do you think, even in your journey so far, has given you more confidence to be able to take a sell position, for example, right? Because that's the biggest challenge, right? A lot of people can buy, but selling is tricky.
Yeah. Like, one of the things that you talk about a lot in the group is, you know, if you sell and you make a profit, you made a profit. You know, it might go up another 10, could go up another 20, could go up God only knows what, but it could go up whatever percentage. You've still made a profit. You know, so
money is
like,
money.
Money's money, and when
a win.
you know, exactly, once you've got out of the trade, or you've got out of your position, you know, whether it's a holding position or whatever, you've still made money. Like, and you know, I think having somebody there just to tell you that,
right?
You know, like, I could have made a lot of money if I had sold, you know, at the right time, you know, but I didn't do that, and so it be. But it'll roll around again, like, and again you learn that as well in the group, and you have that confidence that, all right, you know, you might have missed this boat, but there's another boat coming, so you just got to be patient and wait. And I think you have to have missed a few sell positions to actually learn that. You know, even if somebody does tell you that, you know, you think you know better, don't you? Everybody thinks they know better. And yeah, definitely. I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is just having that person there to say to you, look, take the profit, put it in your pocket, move on. There'll be another dip, get back in then, you know.
Exactly.
That's,
And it's funny, like even just yesterday, I think I did an update on the market conditions with Bitcoin's pushing up and the stock market's at all-time highs. And like, I get that, you know, so that's why I like to just give those little, even if it's a 10-minute video update, just so that members who are specifically new or new to the market, like, just kind of that reinforcement of like, hey, if this happens, then this, as you know, we always have a step-by-step process, you know, and that's, I think for trading and investing is a huge thing, because a lot of the times you'll hear on the TV, you'll hear on Instagram, you'll hear on TikTok, whatever, or YouTube, that like Bitcoin's going to go to 200K when you haven't even got through key Fibonacci levels or extension levels or key levels. It just doesn't make any sense. You're jumping like steps 4, 5, 6 and going straight to steps 12, you know, so having that accountability, I think is nice. And how I keep myself grounded is literally using the snipe strategy and keeping everything, like, what does the snipe app say? What are my indicators saying? What are my charts telling me? And then I can just go backwards from there and execute a decision with data, you know, so. Let's talk about the oil short. So I gave that trade a good few weeks back. That was a pretty obvious one, right? Because macro conditions, huge spike in oil. Usually when we see a vertical chart, right, you're going to get imbalanced, you're going to get that fill. So like, and we knew once potentially things settle down with Iran and the US, we were going to get some sort of pullback, right? So, but you took that trade. I know we discussed it on one of the live calls, but talk me through like that trade. I know we discussed it, but after the call, like how did you go about kind of placing your trade? Because you did that on your own. I didn't tell you.
Yeah. So again, like that, there's a great
By the way,
example.
53% profit.
Yeah, great. It was a
Great trade. 53%.
Yeah. Great example of live calls. I mean, we were all on the call, you know, whatever length of time it was, and there's tons of different things discussed, but we discussed that oil trade and you know, the sort of potential news that was going to come out in the next couple of days, and you know, we discussed how, you know, oil was really overbought. So, you know, when people started to break it down like that, it was pretty obvious that oil was going to come down. It mightn't have came down within 24 hours or 48 hours, but eventually it was going to come down. So, after the call, I headed off, had a quick look online, different bits and pieces of news, and then jumped on Bybit. I have an account on Bybit and set up on the perpetual contract, set up a trade with leverage on it, and placed the trade, and played out pretty quick. Kind of played out within 24 hours or something.
Literally the next morning, like it was kind of make or break. That was just before. What was it? Just before that huge news, it was a maker. Oh, he was going to attack, and Trump was going to attack or not attack on that 8 p.m. deadline, right? So we knew either way.
That's right. Yeah.
You know. But I mean, what's interesting there is like you didn't just blindly follow my trade, right? Like I gave the setup, I gave the idea, but like, you actually went in and executed on that. So like when you went off to Bybit and you were going to execute on it, what was it? Like, how has Capital Circle helped you to be able to go off and like place your stop, have your TP? Is that just a combination of everything, or is there anything specific that you were confident enough to go off and place it out? And you didn't tell me or anything. You just showed me the P&L win, right?
So in the lessons, you know, it goes through everything in the setting up a trade, setting up a leverage trade, setting up take profits, stop losses. You know, so important, you know, to understand where to set your stop loss. You know, you see it so many times. You know, if you don't set your stop loss at the right place, like the market moves up and down, it could just move up really quick and wick you out, stop your trade, and then boom, you know, run straight through your take profit. So, you know, in the group, like that's discussed a lot, and in the lessons, but as I say, the most important thing that I took away from or learned from when I started to now is you have to put on the time and the lessons, like
Right.
turning up and doing the turning up and doing the calls every week. Yeah, okay, you'll learn a bit, but you have to learn the lingo. You've got to understand the market to a certain extent, or it's just going to be totally overwhelming,
Right.
and there is no substitute for doing the lessons. Like, you have to do the lessons. That's what I found anyway, with it.
And I've tried to make this as easy as possible, and my inner circle to accommodate for like a wide wealth of people, right? So I pretty much built my strategy into the Snipe app. Have you been using the Snipe app much as like a day-to-day confluence, or how are you finding using the Snipe app?
Yeah. Again, that was probably one of the main reasons I joined the second group. Was because you were announcing the new app that was coming out, and the Snipe app now for me, it's just, I'll look at the trade and look at what I'm going to do and whatnot. It's like a last confluence. I'll look to see, is it in a buy or sell zone. But also, in saying that, sometimes I'll just open the Snipe during the day and I'll be like, oh, XRP's in the buy zone, and then that'll prompt me to go look at the charts and see, is that something that I want to get on. I try not to trade too many different charts, but just the major ones at the moment. The main sort of Bitcoin and the top altcoins. But yeah, it's great. It's great sort of little pointer to point you towards something to look into, because otherwise these things are happening, and like, obviously you can't watch every chart. So yeah, it's great. It's a great tool. Definitely is. It's not like something that you just say, right, I'm buying when it's green and I'm selling. Like, I haven't done that, but it does just like a little extra bit,
That's it. And like, so many crypto investors, like, they go in circles for years, like literally years. What are the biggest mistakes you think people make?
Yeah. Biggest mistake, I'm 100% guilty of this, is, and I think everybody does it, like,
I'm sure I've done this as
oh,
well.
everybody has done it. Everybody is like watching
Yeah.
too many
Guilty.
influencers on YouTube. Like,
The
like
noise.
like this bull run, I was adamant that Bitcoin was going to 150,000. I was like, that's where I'm getting out, 150,000. I had nothing to base it on, like absolutely nothing. Only some guy on YouTube, that the consensus on YouTube among all the influencers were that it was going to 150,000. And sure, it didn't go there. Like, so that's probably the biggest thing I'm guilty, or most people are probably guilty of.